Willkommen in London oder willkommen aus London. Meine Damen und Herren, das kommt jetzt darauf an, wie immersive Ihre Beziehung zu Ihrem Bildschirm in den letzten Wochen geworden ist. Schön, dass Sie unsere Tür heute gefunden haben, und ich glaube, Sie sind froh, dass es eine virtuelle Tür ist, weil die Pandemie wütet hier schlimmer als anderswo. Gestern wurde der 50.000. Corona-Tote in Großbritannien gezählt. Die Excess Mortality ist noch um einiges höher. Damit sind die Briten nicht der Europameister, sondern hinter dem sechsmal größeren USA auch ziemlich weit oben in einer globalen Rangliste. Die Gründe dafür sind vielfältig: ein miserables Gesundheitssystem, die hohe Bevölkerungsdichte 4,3 Mal so hoch wie in Österreich, die hohen sozialen Ungleichheiten. Der Covid-19 ist eine Armutspandemie, aber natürlich auch der Umstand, dass die 9 Millionen Metropole London mit ihren 4 Flughäfen mit 170 Millionen Passagierbewegungen jedes Jahr im Jänner, Februar und März natürlich ein offenes Einfallstor für Viren aus aller Welt, vornehmlich aus Spanien und Italien, wie man heute weiß, war. Ich habe vergessen, mich vorzustellen. Mein Name ist Christian Käsberg. Ich leite das Büro der Wirtschaftskammer in London seit Anfang 2016. Wie Sie sehen, geht mir langsam das Haargel aus, um meine dünnen, wenigen, aber immer längeren Haare niederzukämpfen. Die Pandemie hat mich auch meiner Lebensgrundlage beraubt, nämlich das Zerkauen und Wiederkauen der Ursachen und Folgen des Austritts Großbritanniens aus der Europäischen Union. Für die noch ein Basisinteresse an diesem alten Thema haben, bis vor einer Woche habe ich geglaubt, dass der Brexit ungebremst und unfrisiert am Ende dieses Jahres kommt, weil die britische Regierung die volkswirtschaftlichen Kosten sehr angenehm in den noch viel größeren volkswirtschaftlichen Kosten der Pandemie verstecken kann und deswegen glaubt, keine Kompromisse machen zu müssen. Seit gestern gibt es wieder vorsichtige Anzeichen für Kompromissbereitschaft. Was am 31.12.2020 kommen wird oder besser am 01.01.2021, weiß der berühmte Kuckuck. Ich werde auf jeden Fall mein Briefingpapier zum 150. Mal neu schreiben. Für Großbritannien gibt es keine besonders optimistischen Prognosen für das Jahr 2020, minus 8% Wirtschaftsleistung. Damit liegen die Briten so gut im europäischen Vergleich, und das auch nur im Best-Case-Szenario, also wenn es keine zweite Infektionswelle gibt, die hier dramatischerweise um vieles wahrscheinlicher ist als anderswo. Erholung 2021, aber ein Endergebnis, das noch weit unter dem Niveau von 2019 liegen wird. Arbeitslosigkeit 10, 12, 15%. Im Augenblick sind 8,5 Millionen. Das ist ein Viertel der Erwerbstätigen sogar freigestellt. Das heißt, werden vom Staat bezahlt. Chancen, wenn man, was man also sozusagen unter diesen Rahmenbedingungen Chancen nennen kann, keine im Automobilsektor oder im Aerospace-Sektor. Vorsichtiger Optimismus in der Infrastruktur. Hier könnten Unternehmen, Anbieter von Modernisierungsvorhaben profitieren. Wenig Dynamik im Wohnbau und Möglichkeiten, Liefervolumen zumindest in der Nähe alter Niveaus zu halten, vielleicht im Lebensmittelbereich, im Gesundheitswesen. Hier gibt es Krankenhausprojekte, hier gibt es Nachrüstungsbedarf. Im IT-Sektor, Versorgungsunternehmen, Banken, Versicherungen, Logistik. Manchmal vielleicht auch sozusagen bei der Substitution von Lieferungen durch die Regionalisierung von Warenströmen. Ich darf Sie heute willkommen heißen beim ersten Akt einer Trilogie von Webinaren zu Tech-Trends in der Krise, die wir uns gemeinsam mit unseren Kollegen in New York und in München ausgedacht haben. Am Programm stehen Immersive Technologies heute, die Digitalisierung der Lieferketten und die additive Fertigung. Details dazu gibt es von meinem Freund Peter Pesel ein bisschen später. Von mir gibt es noch eine Art grundsätzlichen Programmhinweis. Die Außenwirtschaftszentren der Wirtschaftskammer Österreich unterstützen österreichische Unternehmen bei ihrer Geschäftstätigkeit auf Auslandsmärkten. Das ist unser heiliges Versprechen an Sie. Viele unserer Büros nützen ihre Standorte aber in den vergangenen Jahren mehr und mehr, um das Thema Wissenstransfer zu besetzen. London ist dafür ein exzellentes Beispiel. Die Dichte und Tiefe der akademischen und unternehmerischen Auseinandersetzung mit Zukunftsfragen ist hier größer als anderswo. Die Stadt hat 9 Millionen Einwohner, 3 der 10 besten Universitäten der Welt befinden sich im Großraum. London ist eine Finanzmetropole, ein Standort von fast allen der Global 1000 Fortune, der Global Fortune 1000s. und damit natürlich auch ein Spielplatz für eine Vielzahl von Consulting-Unternehmen, von Thinktanks, von außeruniversitären Forschungsinstituten. Das macht die Stadt zu einem Wissensknoten und zu einem idealen Platz, um österreichische Unternehmen an globales Innovationswissen anzubinden. Und diese Anbindung, meine Damen und Herren, ist heute wahrscheinlich um vieles, vieles wertvoller, notwendiger und wichtiger als je zuvor. Vor einer Woche hat eine Sprecherin des Imperial College ein Webinar mit einem Zitat von überraschenderweise Mike Tyson begonnen, der gesagt hat, everybody has a plan until you get punched in the face. We had a plan, we got punched in the face, und heute stehen wir vor einer Zukunft, die wir uns vor 4 Monaten weder vorstellen wollten noch vorstellen konnten. Eine Zukunft, die bewältigbar ist, aber wahrscheinlich nur dann, wenn es uns gelingt, sehr rasch unsere Werkzeugkästen in der Unternehmensführung und im Technologieeinsatz umzudenken und anzupassen. Immersive Technologies, Tech-Trends in der Krise ist ein Beitrag dazu. Es gibt vielzählige solcher Beiträge auf unseren YouTube-Channels. Auf unserem YouTube-Channel finden Sie Webinare, die bereits gelaufen sind zu Themen wie Corporate Learning, Design Thinking, Flexible Working oder Branding. Wir hoffen, dass da was für Sie dabei ist. This was it from me. Thank you very much for patiently listening. I would like to hand over now to my friend and colleague, Peter Pesel, who will introduce our speakers and lead through the rest of the program, also moderate the Q&A session. Stay healthy, keep your spirits up, help others to do the same. If you need anything, get in touch with us by phone or by email, and I hope to see you soon again, face-to-face, either here in London or in Austria.
Thank you very much, Christian, and very welcome also from my side. My name is Peter Pesel. I'm Head of Technology at Advantage Austria, the Austrian Wirtschaft Center in London. I'm very happy that you found us today in this virtual form, and the topic is technology trends in times of crisis. As Christian mentioned, this is going to be a trilogy, with today being the first part with the topic immersive technologies. But if you're interested, please also here see the dates and topics for our next 2 sessions that we do together with our colleagues in New York and Munich. Next week we will hand over to our office in New York, where the topic will be digital supply chain, where an expert from MIT will join this webinar as well, before we move to continental Europe again, to Munich for the third part and final part, where the topic will be additive manufacturing, what's going to happen in the next hour. There will be a short introduction from my side to the topic, a quick overview on the UK ecosystem, before we then move to our expert speaker from Imperial College London. We have Céline Mouginon from the Dyson School of Design Engineering. She will give us insight into latest research, trends, technologies, also some use cases with focus on design and innovation. And finally, we will have a panel discussion together with one expert from industry as well, Mark Sage. He's the CEO from AREA, Augmented Reality for Enterprise Alliance. And this is also where we will try to answer all of your questions. Before we start kicking off with our expert speaker, most of you will be familiar what these terms are. Just quickly, augmented reality, we mean everything where we overlay digital objects to the real world. Everyone will be familiar with augmented reality on your mobile phone, on your tablet, where you use your camera, and there will be some information displayed on there. If we go into a full immersive experience with a headset, we talk about virtual reality. And if we blend those two worlds, where we have a mix of virtual objects and the real world, we talk about mixed reality. We will also hear today about extended reality, where we try to interact with real tangible objects. But this will be, I will lead this topic to our expert speaker in a bit. What can immersive technologies do? Why should we use them? They are more or less an extended version of how we can experience the world. It's a new kind of user interface where we can better visualize, better interact, and also instruct and guide people. And the value for a business can be twofold. First of all, you can use immersive technologies as kind of a product feature for your customers. Most famous examples is using immersive technologies to bring better customer experience, to showcase products to them, and so on. But also, then the second part and very, very important value is to implement immersive technologies within the value chain. So this ranging from design of a new product to the development, manufacturing phase, where immersive technologies can help, to logistics, marketing, sales, and also maintenance. So after the sale of the product, immersive technologies can be very helpful, and we will look at some examples in a bit. But why have we chosen UK as the location where we think immersive technology is a bit further ahead? Last year, there was a report from Immersive UK, which stated that UK is currently Europe's largest market for augmented and virtual reality. There is, of course, London is as a creative and technology hub, a center, but there's also other strong hubs within the UK. So Bristol, Manchester, Northern Ireland, they all have their strengths, and there's a lot of activities going on in a variety of sectors. As mentioned, creativity and the creative sector is very important for immersive technologies, because you need content. It's not only the technology and the headset, but it's also what you display and what you use the technology for. There's also a big focus from the government on immersive technologies. So they've recently, 2 years ago, published the Industrial Strategy Fund, where one of the focus areas was immersive technologies. In total, there are currently 1,250 companies with a major focus on immersive technologies, meaning that more than 50% of the turnover is created by augmented, virtual, or mixed reality. And almost 5,000 companies are further active in this space using augmented or virtual reality. So these are just some of the application areas, ranging from using immersive technologies for planning, in the construction side. These are all examples and images from the Immersive UK report, which is freely available to download. We can also send you a link to you if you're interested in a specific sector. These are all examples from the UK, where immersive technologies are being used for helping people in training. In education is currently a big topic, also in terms of crisis, but also for other sectors that are more often neglected, or where we don't think that we can find immersive technologies, such as the transport sector. As mentioned, there is a lot of information out there on use cases in specific sectors, which we cannot cover in this 1 hour, even though we can try to answer, of course, specific questions if you have. But if you want more information, please reach out to us. We have link collections to all recent reports, from market research to sector insights and so on. We also have published and created Immersive Tech Digest, which is a 2-page summary with the most important information that you need to know about immersive technologies on the UK ecosystem. Who are the key stakeholders? What are the opportunities? Where do I start? What are the challenges? So basically a summary of this webinar with further information that you can follow up on. If you're interested, please write us in the chat box, or send us an email to london@wko.at, and we are happy to send you the reports to you. And before I hand over to our expert speaker from Imperial College London, I just want to point out this slide and this website to you, which is on the Austrian ecosystem for augmented and virtual reality. So this has been done by Enlight AI with support of our colleague and technology expert in Vienna, Matthias Grabner. And here you can see many Austrian companies working in different areas in the immersive technology space, from tools and technologies providers to enablers and research institutes. If you are an immersive tech company and you're not on the list, feel free to reach out to them. This is already, as you see, the third version, and they're trying to extend this list as much as possible. But also, if you're looking for collaboration partners and so on, I think this might be a very useful website. But now back to the UK and what's happening here. As we've heard, there's a lot of research and activities going on. I would like now to introduce to you our expert speaker from Imperial College London. Imperial College is one of the leading universities in terms of innovation and technology, and innovation is also going to be a part of this presentation now, how we can use immersive technologies to design new products. I would like to introduce to you Céline Mougenon. She's an associate professor at Imperial College London at the Dyson School for Design Engineering. And I would like to hand over to you right now. And I will be back in about 20-25 minutes for the Q&A session. So Céline, thank you very much for joining, and the stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Peter, for the introduction. So I will talk about how we can use immersive tech for designing the future. So I belong to the Design Engineering School at Imperial College, and my research area is design and how to support designers and innovators in the creation of innovation, and especially user-centered innovation. And virtual reality and immersive tech is a really powerful tool for supporting this user-centered design innovation. So I will, in my talk today, I will show a few examples from the industry, but mostly from academia. And I will discuss ideas and discuss where I think virtual reality in design and innovation is going. And we can discuss that in more details in the Q&A. So I belong to the Dyson School of Design Engineering. So it's a new department at Imperial that was created about 5 years ago, and where we mix design thinking and design methods with engineering. And we do research, for instance, on responsible engineering, sustainable system design, and creativity and innovation. So design methods and how to support design, engineering, and innovation. I'm looking at how to design with a user-centered approach. So this can be in any areas, any fields of the industry. My point is how to support user-centered approaches. So how to make sure anything that is designed or created is based on user requirements. And in this area, I use, one of the tools I use is extended reality, or virtual reality, or extended reality in general. So in the talk today, you will see these three elements, how to use virtual reality for designing for and with people. So XR stands for extended reality. So this covers virtual reality, augmented reality, and mixed reality, as Peter described earlier. And it's a way to immerse people or make people experience reality, but in the virtual world. So today you can actually have a variety of experiences through XR technologies. You can dive in the Pacific Ocean, explore Mars. You can even walk inside Cindy Crawford's closet. So most of these experiences now are mostly about entertainment, or gaming or entertainment, but there are more and more applications in the industry or for work applications. So companies can use extended reality for training their employees, or developing new products and engage with customers and users in the development of these new products. And my focus is more here on the industrial applications and how extended reality can be used in the development of new products. So over the past 50 years, design engineers and innovators have been using technologies like computer-aided design software. And initially, it enabled the design engineers to generate designs in 2D or in 3D, but the only interactions the users could have with these models were like visualization. But now with virtual reality, the designers and the consumers can actually create and improve the design jointly before the products are created in the real world. So there's a shift from CAD software to extended reality software or platforms, which is a reflection of the move from a reflection of how the design has been shifted from the design of products and functions to the design of experiences, and especially multi-sensory experiences. So there's a big trend in now focusing on the whole experience that customers and users will have, and not only on the products themselves. Okay, the next slide is, so my focus is on how to use virtual reality in design, and why design is so important has been described firstly in the 70s in this book by Victor Papanek, Design for the Real World. So although the book is quite old, it's still very relevant right now. And the book is about explaining how design is actually a tool for shaping the society, and about the social and moral responsibility of designers in how the society is shaped. And there's a big emphasis on the fact that designers and innovators need to understand their users and take the users' needs and values into account when they are designing new products or systems. And I think it's still quite relevant today. So anything that is being produced or manufactured should be really taking into account the users, the potential users. And so that's why in academia, the design research is looking at how we can include users and users in the design process. So how we can support the collaboration between design engineers and the end users to make sure that our artificial world, as it was coined by Donald Schoen, is actually shaped based on the real needs of people. And this is also in line with, so that's the moral and ethics perspective on design, but there's also a business value in the design approach, which was highlighted by the annual report on the most innovative companies in the world by the BCG, which shows that design will actually, or design approach will actually support ideation and concept development, which are really powerful innovation engines. And two others recent reports show that a design approach is extremely valuable in creating innovation. So a customer-centric approach would be key in being innovative for a company, and this would lead to an increase in revenue. So looking at these, in my research, I'm trying to support the design activities in order to make sure users are part of the design process. So what I do is I look at the natural activity of designing and innovating, and based on that, with my research group, I create tools that can support design activity, and especially the collaboration between the design engineers and the end users, the lay people who will use the innovations eventually. So one of the tools we created in my group is a virtual reality tool, which I will show later in the talk. So looking at virtual reality and how it evolved over the past years, it's interesting to see that now the experience is more seamless. So initially, virtual reality was used in gaming and entertainment. So back in the 50s, there was the Sensorama machine by Morton Helix. In 68, the Sword of Damocles, and in 78, the Aspen movie map, which was the precursor of Google Map. So these were the early applications of virtual reality back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and it has actually boomed in the 90s. And it was the term virtual reality was firstly coined in the late 80s. So the boom was in the 90s, but still it was in the gaming world. And only recently, well, in the 21st century, we started to see applications in the industry. So on the left hand side, you can see an example of a system that was developed in the UK, the Lucid system developed at the University of Warwick in the manufacturing group. And so more recently, there are a number of devices on the market. So what you see on the slide is the Oculus Rift device. But there are many other devices that would allow an interaction with the virtual world, such as the Samsung Gear, PlayStation, the Google Daydream, and many others. So now it's becoming quite easy for companies and people to access virtual reality. So some of the examples of how it can be used. Here you can see examples of the use of virtual reality in engineering applications. So you can see SolidWorks tool to visualize a product in 3D and move it with the hands or with handheld devices on the right-hand side, or even with a tablet on the bottom right-hand side. So engineers and the users can visualize models that are being developed in CAD software, and they can even disassemble the product, reassemble it, and visualize how it would look like in 3D in the real world, and even move around the product and have a feeling of holding it or interacting with it. So what virtual reality allows is visualization of virtual environments, as well as interacting with 3D models. So this is mostly used in the aircraft interior design, in the automotive industry, or in consumer goods, such as, or in automotive industry, such as at BMW or Infinity in Hong Kongese manufacturer. So BMW has established a mixed reality lab where people can interact with a car and the interior of a car. So there's a high degree of immersion. The system consists of an engine-powered virtual reality mixed with real physical hardware. So with the wheel and with the pedals and the reclining car seats. So the the impression of being sitting in a car is really realistic. So it's used to optimize, for instance, the car interior or simulate spatially dependent activities such as controlling the interface. And for instance, the engineers can test whether it's easy for driver to access the entertainment system while the seat is reclined, for example. And the Infinity example is about, so the customers anywhere in the world could actually try the vehicles fully, and they could even make customizations on the vehicles. So how does it fit with the research on design and how people design? So this is a very famous model of designing issued by the UK Design Council. It's called the double diamond, and the point of this model is to show that so there are 4 phases in this model, but discover, define, develop, and deliver. And while most engineers would be focused on developing and delivering, the model insists on the importance of discovering and defining what users really needs. So there are many examples of virtual reality in the second diamond, so for developing and delivering a prototype. And the trend now is to use virtual reality earlier in the process, in the discover and define phase. So I will show an example of how it's used by design engineers in the second diamond. So there was a study on how designers would use an immersive workspace as compared to a traditional workspace. And researchers showed that the impression of being immersed, the creativity of the designers was actually supported by being immersed in the immersive workspace. And there was a better engagement of the designers in their creative tasks. So overall, they showed, the researchers showed that the virtual reality could actually support the creativity. And there's a shift, as I explained, to using virtual reality earlier in the design process. So you can see that it's recommended to start here. So innovation happens when you start here. If you forget to discover and define users' needs and empathize with users, perhaps you're missing some innovation opportunities. So this is a big trend in virtual reality, how to support these empathizing phase with the users, how to be more engaged with the users. So it's based on also co-design approaches. So even outside the virtual reality world, there's a big trend in using co-design approaches and participatory design approaches, where design engineers and the end users would actually co-create together. So they would meet and discuss and imagine the future together. And so this is based on techniques that are called generative sessions. Instead of just interviewing the users, the design engineers would actually work together with the users in generative sessions and create a vision and perhaps models of what the future could look like and what future products and future experiences could look like. So this has been done, for instance, in the design of hospitals, where nurses were actually creating physical models of what the hospital could look like. And this is now being done with the support of virtual reality tools. So this is a very interesting example where the virtual reality tool is supporting a multi-sensory experience and trying to capture what is called the voice of customers, VOC, the voice of customers, and especially related to multi-sensory experience like the visual feedback, haptic feedback. So you can see that in this system here, there is a haptic feedback device that is being used to make the user feel what it would be like to actually operate this washing machine and perhaps close the door and have some auditory feedback and haptic feedback as well. So in this system, the users could visualize a virtual model of a washing machine and get some feedback from the system, some multi-sensory feedback. So the level of immersion is really high, and the experience that people are having is quite realistic. Still, what we think to make the users fully actors of the design process, we think there should be both a good level of immersion and also a good level of control over the virtual reality model. So we designed a system where the users could visualize a virtual environment, but also control it and make some modifications in the virtual model. So this is a work we've done and that has been published in the Journal of Intelligent Manufacturing recently. And we used tangible user interfaces. So you can see these small blocks here, which are actually physical blocks that can be handled by the user, and that are being used to actually control some of the elements in the virtual model. So the system is called a mixed reality system because it's a mix of these virtual environments here on the screen and tangible physical objects that can be used to interact with the virtual model. So the benefit of this is that anyone without any specific computer or engineering skills can interact with the model, the 3D model, and modify it. And the idea here is that the end users can actually create models of environments or products that they wish to create, so they can visualize right away some different versions of the products that they created. And we hope to engage the users in the design process and make them and empower the users through this mixed reality tool here. So that's a good mix of immersion and control, as you can see here. So there was a video, I'm not sure this is working. Okay, so this is another example of a project we developed with students in the postgrad program of Innovation, Design, Engineering between Imperial College and the Royal College of Art. So a group of students developed a system that is that would allow anyone to interact with virtual model. So it's a hand gesture controlled spatial interface, and it's based on a 2-point body gesture recognition system. So there would be this white device that you can see here. There would be 2 devices like this positioned on the body of the user, and depending on the gestures that the user is doing, they can control some behaviors inside the virtual model. So these are examples of what we are doing in virtual reality and how virtual reality can support the process of designing new products and new experiences, and also make sure that the end users are fully involved in this designing process. So as a conclusion, I would like to highlight that extended reality is a really good way of bringing the people into the design process and improve the design process, improve the customer satisfaction eventually. And in the future, I think it can be used not only for designing products and systems, but also services and experiences. For instance, by using big data in the design process. So there are lots of new opportunities. And for example, it can be a good way to engage with potential users even in situations like now where we cannot physically interact with the people. So lots of opportunities, but at the same time, lots of challenges that we want to address. I will cite a few. So there's about crowd-sourced creativity and intellectual property, like when end users are involved in the design process with a company, who owns the outcomes? Then there are questions about ethics. How will the design engineers deal with privacy issues when the user data is used into the design process? And about the future of work and future of innovation and design engineering. How will this new way of working will impact the people, their creativity, their well-being, and their work in general? So I will now turn back to Peter for the Q&A, and I will be looking forward to your questions that we'll address with Mark. Thank you very much.
And thank you very much, Céline, for a very, very, very interesting talk, and lots of examples, lots of insights, and hopefully also lots of questions. So and now turning to the audience as well, please, now this is the time we're starting our Q&A and panel discussion. If you have any questions to our speakers, then please enter them now, and we will try to discuss them through. But before, I would like to introduce our second expert, industrial expert, Mark Sage. He's the CEO from Area, Augmented Reality for Enterprise Alliance. This is a global organization that helps companies to adopt augmented reality. And maybe, Mark, I'll let you say a few words about the organization and how you help companies, but also maybe you can at the same time already point out where do you see the biggest benefits? Why should companies adopt augmented reality in their businesses?
Thank you, Peter, and thank you, Sion, for a fantastic presentation. So as Peter said, I am the Executive Director or CEO of the Area, Augmented Reality Enterprise Alliance. We're a global membership-funded, not-for-profit alliance helping to accelerate the adoption of enterprise AR. Our members are in 3 different segments. We have companies that are deploying AR, so companies like Boeing, Bosch, Ford, ExxonMobil, so across lots of different industries. We have a bigger group of providers of AR technology, ranging from hardware, software, consultancy, platform providers, and some of the supporting technologies like gesture control and content development. And then our third segment of members are we kind of group them as non-commercial organizations, so government agencies, research institutes, universities, and standards organizations. So kind of many different companies coming together, and what we do boils down to what we call our 4 strategic pillars. And the first one is delivering thought leadership content, focused really at the business leaders, like the people listening to this webinar, to help them make informed decisions about investing in AR. So the kind of information that we promote and present are what problems can be solved using AR, so the use cases, examples of those problems being solved in real life, the case studies, what technologies are needed, and most important, certainly from a business context, the ROI, the return on investment, how much these technologies cost, but more importantly, how much is a company going to make or save by deploying them. The second strategic pillar is around networking. bringing the organizations together. And there's nothing better than learning from an organization that have successfully deployed AR and the challenges that they've had to overcome and the benefits they've realized. Our third pillar is around educate, and that's making sure we have a steady set of skilled workers coming into the industry. So working with universities to help them define courses and guest lecturing and outplacements. And then finally, and probably where most of our work's going on at the moment, is overcoming some of the barriers to adoption in enterprise AR. So we have a number of committees or monthly meetings focusing on some of the business challenges that we see. So areas like safety and security, human factors that Leon's been talking about is a very important part as well. And then we have a marketing committee, which is about promoting the ecosystem. And then finally, a research capability and committee, which is really saying to all of our members, and we do this twice a year, what do you need to research? What information, what usable, tangible information do you need to help your business? And every area member can make a proposal. We have a little pitching session and a voting, and whichever research proposal has the most votes, the area then funds and delivers. And we've done research on security and wearables, an ROI calculator, a deep dive into some of the human aspects within manufacturing. So working with the kind of people that are actually using AR. We've done a piece on AI, IoT, and AR. And then at the moment, we're looking at some of the technologies like web AR, and also taking great big 3D assets, which companies want to use, but more often not, they can't get it into a format that's usable within AR. So it just gives you a flavor of some of the work that we're doing, and it's all about getting into that detail, focusing on enterprise AR to help companies successfully deploy the technology and gain benefits from it. Peter.
That's great. I mean, and following up on that, there's already some questions streaming in, and also mentioning manufacturing. The question is specifically if you can see AR helping lowering the production costs, and if you can maybe name some examples.
Yeah, exactly. The kind of two levels I always talk about is improving performance and creating those efficiencies. So some of the kind of high level use cases is about getting things done correctly first time. Okay, and there's a number of different kind of technologies and use cases, but a simple kind of step-by-step guide to help the worker complete the task. And I think just to be clear, this works better on kind of complex and infrequent tasks. It's not the kind of thing you would want to use an AR a platform or an AR solution to say, I don't know, put tires on a car that you do repetitively. And even the robots made would do that. So think of those kind of complex and infrequent tasks, but those step-by-step guides. And I think that's coming even more important at the moment as we begin to train the new people coming into the industry. Gone are the days of being able to sit on the shoulder or look over somebody completing that task. That certainly can't happen at the moment. So being able to capture this information and then being able to deliver it through an AR wearable and getting your experts to deliver that information is really important. And probably the biggest use case we're seeing at the moment is remote assistance. So especially thinking of the people maybe working on the front line in manufacturing or a factory environment. If something goes wrong, historically they may have to call the company that manufactures or supports those machines, may have to wait for that person to turn up. There's a cost element to that. There's a delay. The force can be outside, the production line can be down. So now again, using AR technology, they can speak to an expert at any time and they can work together. They can be shown how to do it. And I think it's a whole new kind of benefit that we'll see from using this remote assistance use case. And a number of companies I've spoken to that say, hey, Mark, if we were a little bit further down our AR journey and we could have had this remote assistance kind of solution in place, we would have definitely been in a better position to overcome some of the challenges that we're seeing at the moment, which is basically the production lines are down because of potential challenges or not having the right people on the shop floor.
Okay, so you're answering already the question, what has changed in the last couple of weeks and during the crisis as well. So you're saying that companies were not, or many companies wish they were being prepared better. Are those companies now reacting? Is it are they trying to catch up? Where is the starting point for companies?
Yeah, no, and it's a good question. I think one of the conversations I've had with many large organizations is they're beginning to see AR as an essential part of their business continuity plans moving forward. So if they have these solutions in place, if we have something like this, or maybe other kind of challenges they have, being able to use this technology, even if some of the people are retiring, they can still potentially be used to be that remote expert. So I think really it's about developing a strategy about your business continuity, but also helping your new set of workers, so being able to train them, and also being, increasing the efficiency and performance of your staff. Certainly getting things right first time to stop that kind of rework, and just becoming more effective in your manufacturing and other kind of industries as well.
Okay, I mean, you made a great case why companies should start, but I would like to touch on a point that Celine was mentioning as well on the challenges side. I found it very interesting, the challenge that, from an intellectual property point of view, this is probably the last thing I would have thought of, and probably also the last thing that some of the companies will think of. Mark, what are the common pitfalls when first starting to adopt AR and then moving forward? Can you share the experience that Celine mentioned, these examples, that then there might be problems later on with the user interaction with these technologies?
Yeah, and I'll come back to the kind of IP side, but the first challenge that I see a lot is that companies really don't treat the AR project as a change management project. You're kind of often seen as a technology. Hey, let's get some new kind of wearables or some new devices into the organization. We are dealing with hearts and minds. People using the tools need to be involved completely through the design, the development, and the delivery process. And it's actually them who have the kind of challenges and the problems. So, a very simple step is make sure that you have an effective change management process. I think on the IP side, and it's very interesting, one of the challenges we see, well, I've seen with some of the companies, is around security, and an element of that is IP. They don't really want their secret designs and things to be able to get out, and is AR and VR kind of secure enough to do that? I know there's lots of companies out there that would say absolutely yes, and I'm sure they are, but it is something that companies need to definitely think about. And then kind of the third high level challenge is around kind of safety. So you're wandering around now, your attention may not be quite as it was previously because you have an overlay of content and useful information. So there's a very nice use case I like from one of our members, Newport News Shipbuilding. They build those great big aircraft carriers you see on Top Gun. And one of the things they use tablets to basically check and make sure the work's been done properly. But as soon as you step backwards, the screen comes off. And you think, well, why is that? And of course, if they go backwards on the great big aircraft carrier, unfortunately, there's a real safety issue that they may fall off that aircraft carrier. So, things like that are really important to think through. And again, learning from each other within the ecosystem is really important.
And also going back to what Celine said, getting it right from the beginning, from the design phase, and not just start developing and see what happens. One question to Celine was coming through is also, where do you see extended reality going in terms of the next couple of years? What are the next developments? Where do you see are the next steps, which we may or may not find in industry?
Well, I think one of the big challenges is about the devices themselves. So for those of you who have tried these, like the headset, like let's say Oculus headset, there's still the usability is much better than a few years ago, but still there are usability issues like motion sickness you would feel if you are using this headset for a long time. And I think there is well, now the companies developing these headsets are actually working on that, like usability of the headset, and making these more, making this smaller, easier to use. And I think depending on the usability of the devices, the experience that the applications will be much more, there will be many more applications if these devices are better designed, actually. So I think we're going to, if let's say if the usability is like a mobile phone that anyone can have it because it's small, it's cheap. We are heading to some like home use of virtual reality applications, and a little bit like sharing, not having virtual reality only for companies with lots of resources, but more like individual uses of virtual reality.
In terms of application areas, there was one specific question probably directed to both of you. Do you know of any cases where augmented reality was used in the food production or also in the food tasting environment? Anything came across anyone?
I can cover that real quick. I just know that one of our members, it's a company called iSucceed, that's based in the US, and it's more for helping kind of food hygiene. And I know they've been working on a wearable and a kind of software platform to do that, almost like a remote evaluation of the food hygiene kind of space. So not quite sure that's exactly the kind of area in the use case, but yeah, I've certainly heard of that company in that use case.
So there's still areas that people can explore, and there's some gaps. Where do you see, I mean, following up on Celine's points, where do you see the next couple of years moving in terms of technology, but also the use cases for industry?
So I agree on the kind of technology, and particularly the wearable side. You know, in AR, we have some devices, you know, the HoloLens, the Magic Leaps, the Vuzix, you know, a number that are coming to market. They need to be kind of enterprise ready. So being able to use in those environments that, you know, they need to be kind of, I can't remember the exact term, but they need to be ready to be in those environments. So that's definitely something I know will continue to improve. I think on the use cases, there are certainly some industries that the work needs to be checked. I've been in environments where someone would complete a task and then someone would come along and check it, quite often by stamping a piece of paper. And I'd like to see the AR being able to, a task is completed, we know it's been completed, so there's no need for a second person to come along. And then that information is stored, and the companies at the moment, if they're storing paper, you know, they have to go, and if there's ever an issue, they have to go and find the paper. They have to go and see who did the, you know, it might be manufacturing or a build, who did it, when they did it, and stuff like that. So I can see that use case becoming more popular. There's already some examples with it as well. And I think the other thing, and driven a little bit more by the situation with the COVID-19, is around collaboration on design, collaboration on build, collaboration on best practice. And again, we are seeing companies, this is not, you know, 10 years out. This is very much in, you know, 6 months, 1 year, 18 months. So those are certainly some key use cases I can see come along very quickly.
So I'm conscious of the time. There's one last question I want to ask you, Mark. We've seen the application areas within the company in various departments in the value chain. If a company would start implementing AR, you know, from design to manufacturing to after sales, where do you see the biggest ROI? Coming back to what you mentioned in the very beginning, from the top of your mind, what is the easiest, you know, way from your experience, or the most valuable way for a company in what area to implement?
And it's kind of difficult because a lot of companies do different things, but certainly I'll go back to the remote assistance, because one of the key challenges for successfully deploying AI, and we've mentioned it a little bit, is about the content. You know, so if you're in an organization, you're going from design to build to maintain to even decommission, you need to make sure you have that content in a digital format. If you haven't got that, then that's a challenge, and you want to start with that kind of low-hanging fruit. So definitely remote assistance and being able to use particular kind of use cases and particular pieces of content. I would suggest to any company, you know, the good first step is to do a kind of pilot or a proof of concept, but plan as if you're doing a full delivery. What we find is we call it in the area pilot purgatory. There are so many pilots that are going on around the world that don't actually transform into full deployments. So think about some of the challenges like safety and security, but they don't all have to be implemented in that first kind of use case. So kind of keep it simple, prove the ROI. And a little tip I would say on that is measure the process first before you implement the actual AR process, because then you can measure one against the other. It's often the step missed. And again, there are lots of tools and organizations like the area that can help out in that initial phases to get people up to speed, to successfully implement those pilots, and then obviously drive forward a full implementation.
It's already a great closing statement and a good tip for the companies out there. Also, we're running out of time. If you have more questions, and there are more questions coming in, you can send us an email to london@wko.at, or we will send you the contact details of both speakers, including a link to the recording of the webinar on YouTube, also the slides in a few days, so you can rewatch it and contact us at any point. I would like to thank both speakers. Thank you very much, Celine and Mark, for taking your time. Very insightful 1 hour and a lot of information. And I hope to see all of you at home or at the office, wherever you are and watching. I hope to see you again next week for part 2 of our technology trends in crisis. And we wish you all the best from the UK. Have a good afternoon and goodbye.